The breaking point. The conference room was eerily silent, the only sound a sharp intake of breath breaking the tension. Jared's heart pounded as he stared across the table at Kyle, his alien colleague. Kale's eyes, deep pools of shifting color that looked almost liquid, were fixed on him with a fury Jared had never seen before. The muscles in Kyle's jaw twitched, and for a moment Jared feared the room might explode with some unknown, alien rage. "I didn't mean it like that," Jared said quickly, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "I just mentioned her in passing. That's all." Kyle's whole body trembled. "Another female?" His voice was low, almost a growl, vibrating through the air like thunder. "You dared to mention another female?" Jared swallowed. "Yeah. I was talking about Dr. Kim. You know, the one who's leading the xenobiology team. She just got the grant for the Andromeda project." Kyle suddenly slammed his fist on the table, the metallic clang echoing sharply. Papers scattered everywhere, and Jared jumped back in shock. "You don't understand!" Kyle's voice cracked, and his eyes glowed brighter, veins pulsing visibly beneath his translucent skin. "You do not speak of her. Not like that." Jared's breath caught. "What do you mean, not like that? She's just a colleague." Kyle stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. His tall frame loomed over Jared, casting a shadow like a storm cloud. "You humans do not comprehend what your words carry. To my people, mentioning another female in this way..." He clenched his fist so hard his knuckles whitened. "It is an insult, a violation." Jared blinked, his mind scrambling for some grounding in this sudden whirlwind. Wait, what? I'm sorry, I didn't know." "Too late." Kyle's tone was harsh, cold. "You have shattered the balance." Before Jared could respond, Kyle stormed out, the door slamming behind him with a force that rattled the entire building. Jared sat there, stunned, heart still hammering in his chest. What the hell just happened? Outside, the sterile white halls of the International Coalition Research Station buzzed quietly with activity, but Jared felt completely alone. He leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath, eyes darting toward the conference room door. Why did Kale react like that? What did he mean by another female being such a huge offense? Jared's mind raced back to the casual conversation earlier that day. He had only made a passing comment about Dr. Kim, another member of the station's human scientific team. How could that spark such a violent reaction? A sudden noise made him jump. His communicator beeped urgently. "Jared, are you okay?" It was Lena, the station's communications officer. "I'm fine," he replied shakily. "Kyle just lost it during the meeting. He went berserk over something I said." "You mean about Dr. Kim?" Lena's voice was cautious, wary. "Yeah, but why? It's not like I insulted her or anything." "Kale's not like us," Lena said quietly. "His people have different customs. Sometimes they react strongly to things that seem trivial to us." Jared sighed, pressing his palms to his face. "I need to figure this out. I can't have Kale like this. We're supposed to be working together on the Cygnus project." Lena's voice softened. "Be careful, Jared. Whatever this is, it's bigger than just jealousy or anger." Hours later, Jared found himself standing outside Kale's quarters. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint blue glow pulsed from within. He hesitated but pushed it open. Inside, the room was stark, alien in design, smooth curves, soft lights that seemed to breathe with a life of their own. Kale sat cross-legged on a low platform, eyes closed, fingers tracing intricate patterns in the air. "Kale?" Jared's voice was gentle. Kale's eyes snapped open, glowing softly now. But the tension remained. "Why did you react like that?" Jared asked. "What does it mean to mention another female? Why is it such a big deal?" Kyle's gaze hardened. "It is complicated. Our bonds are sacred. To speak of another female in the way you did is to question loyalty, to cast doubt on the sanctity of connection." Jared frowned. "You mean it's like jealousy?" Kyle shook his head slowly. More than jealousy. It is a warning. A cultural taboo. It stirs ancient fears in my people, fears that could lead to ruin. Jared sat down opposite him. I want to understand. If I caused you pain, I want to make it right. Kale's eyes softened for a moment. You are human. Your ways are foreign to me, but I will teach you if you are willing to learn. Jared nodded. I'm willing. That night, Jared lay awake in his bunk, thoughts spinning like galaxies. How deep did this cultural divide go? Could he bridge it before everything spiraled out of control? The Cygnus project was more than just research. It was the first real attempt at human-alien cooperation on a large scale. Failure was not an option, but now, with Kale distant and volatile, Jared wasn't sure they had much time left. The next morning, Jared found a message waiting on his terminal. It was from Kale, an invitation. Meet me at the observation deck. At 2100 hours, there are things you must know. Jared's pulse quickened. This could be the key to saving their partnership or the start of something far more dangerous. He glanced out the window, where stars glittered cold and distant. The universe was vast, full of mysteries. And tonight, Jared was about to step deeper into one of the darkest and most personal, uneasy alliance. The observation deck was bathed in the cold glow of distant stars, the glass walls stretching endlessly into the void of space. Jared stood with his arms crossed, muscles tense, waiting for Kale to arrive. The vastness outside seemed to emphasize how small and fragile their partnership was right now. The soft hiss of the door, sliding open, broke the silence. Kale stepped in, his presence imposing even in the dim light. His eyes, usually vibrant and shifting with color, were steadier tonight, but the storm behind them had not fully passed. You came, Kale said, voice low and steady. I'm here, Jared replied. I want to understand about what happened, about your people. Kyle moved to the center of the deck, gazing out at the stars as if searching for something beyond reach. Our history is written in bonds, Kyle began, voice barely above. A whisper, not just biological or social. Bonds that define who we are, how we survive. Jared nodded slowly. You mean like family or loyalty? Kale's gaze snapped back to Jared. More. Our bonds are sacred, much deeper than your human concepts. To mention another female is to question the exclusivity of a bond. It implies doubt, disrespect, even betrayal. Jared's brow furrowed. So when I talked about Dr. Kim, it wasn't just casual? Kale's voice grew colder. To me, it was a challenge, an affront. You disturbed a balance that holds my people together. Jared swallowed. Why didn't you tell me before? Kale's expression softened just for a moment. Because you are human, and understanding takes time. You must learn our ways, our fears. Jared felt the weight of those words settle deep inside him. This was more than cultural misunderstanding. It was a fundamental difference in how their two species connected with the world and each other. In the days that followed, Jared tried to bridge the growing gap. He watched Kale carefully, noting how the aliens' mood fluctuated like a storm tide. Their usual easy banter was replaced by strained silence or clipped commands. At the lab, their work on the Cygnus project continued, but the tension between them was a palpable presence. The project was a collaboration to develop a propulsion system that could revolutionize interstellar travel, something both species desperately needed to explore and survive. But Kyle's withdrawn behavior affected the team. Other scientists whispered about the alien's odd reactions, his mood swings, and the strange cultural codes Jared barely understood. One afternoon, as Jared reviewed propulsion schematics, a sudden alert flashed on his terminal. Anomaly detected. In Sector 7. Jared frowned. Kale, the sensors picked something unusual. Kale's eyes narrowed. I will check it immediately. Together they rushed to the monitoring station. The screen displayed a flickering mass of energy, a faint but irregular signal disrupting the sector's stability. Jared frowned. Could it be interference, maybe from another ship? Kyle shook his head. No, this is something else. The alien's fingers danced over the console, running scans and diagnostics. The tension between them was charged but silent. We must investigate, Kyle said finally. Jared hesitated. Is it safe? Kyle's eyes glowed faintly. Safe or not, we must know. That evening, Jared and Kyle prepared for a field mission to Sector 7. They suited up in the station's advanced EVA gear, sleek and adaptive to both human and alien physiology. The airlock hissed open, and the two floated out into the void, tethered to the station, but moving toward the source of the anomaly. The void was silent, except for the faint hum of their suits and the flickering glow from the energy disturbance. As they neared the source, the energy coalesced into a swirling vortex of light and shadow, like a tear in the fabric of space. Jared's communicator crackled. This isn't just interference. It looks like some kind of dimensional fluctuation. Kale's eyes widened. I have never seen this before. Suddenly, the vortex pulsed violently. The air around them shimmered, and Jared felt a cold wave wash over him. Back to the station. Now! Kyle commanded. They fought the invisible currents dragging them toward the anomaly, muscles straining. Just as they reached the airlock, a sharp jolt shook the station. Inside, alarms blared. Jared staggered, heart racing. What was that? Kale's expression was grim. Something crossed over, something dangerous. Back in the lab, Jared and Kale analyzed the data. The anomaly wasn't random. It had a pattern, a signature that hinted at intelligence. Like a message? Jared asked. Kale nodded slowly. Or a warning. The air between them crackled with urgency and unspoken fear. Jared glanced at Kale. Maybe that's why you went berserk. This isn't just about culture. It's about something bigger. Kale's voice was low. Yes, and it is connected to the female you mentioned. Jared stared. Connected how? Kale hesitated, then said, There are customs, laws in my culture that govern relationships and loyalty. Breaking them can bring shame or worse. Jared felt the weight of those words, realizing the stakes were far higher than he imagined. Over the next few days, Jared dug into everything he could find about Kyle's species. What he uncovered was a society built on strict bonds and hierarchies, where relationships were tied to honor and survival. Meanwhile, Kyle's behavior became more unpredictable, sometimes cold and distant, other times oddly vulnerable. One night, Jared found Kale alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars with a haunted look. Kyle, Jared said softly, we're in this together. You don't have to carry it alone. Kale looked at him, eyes shimmering with something like gratitude. Thank you, Jared, but my burden is not yours to bear. Try me. Kyle sighed, a sound like wind through ancient trees. There are secrets about the female I cannot share. Not yet. The tension between them broke only briefly when Kyle shared a story of his childhood, a ritual of bonding, sacrifice, and loyalty that shaped his entire species. It was a story of survival and connection, of love and fear intertwined. Jared listened, feeling a new respect for his alien colleague, not just as a partner, but as a person. The peace was shattered. The next morning, Jared's terminal beeped frantically. Kale was missing. No message, no trace. Panic surged through Jared's veins. He contacted Lena. Kale's gone. The door to his quarters was unlocked, but he's not there. Lena's voice was grave. This can't be random. There's more at play here. Jared felt a chill. The mystery was deepening, and time was running out. The hidden truth, the flickering image on Jared's screen, replayed again and again, refusing to sink into normalcy. Kyle, stepping quietly through the corridor of the space station, but not alone. A female figure moved with him, tall, graceful, and unmistakably alien. Her skin shimmered faintly, a deep, iridescent blue, unlike Kale's more muted tones. The curve of her jaw, the shape of her eyes, every feature screamed of their shared origin, yet something about her was foreign. Jared's heart pounded. Who was she? And why had Kale never mentioned her before? "Lena, you need to see this," Jared said, his voice tight. Lena appeared beside him in the dim glow of the control room, her brows knitting together as she watched the footage. "That's not Dr. Kim," she said quietly. "Who is she?" Jared shook his head. "I don't know, but Kale was with her and then he disappeared." Lena's fingers flew across her terminal, pulling up personnel files and security logs. "Wait, this woman doesn't appear in any official database. No clearance, no records." "That's not possible," Jared whispered. "Someone on this station without clearance? What is she doing here?" Lena looked grim. "We need to find out, fast." The air in the station felt heavier, charged with a tension Jared hadn't felt before. Kyle's absence was more than a missing person case. It was a rift opening between two worlds. Jared retraced the paths from the footage, walking the same corridors where Kyle and the mysterious woman had appeared. The quiet hum of the station systems was a stark contrast to the turmoil in his mind. Why had Kyle hidden this? Later that evening, Jared sat alone in his quarters, staring at the files he had downloaded. Images, communications, encrypted data streams. The woman's name, wherever it was buried beneath layers of coded security. He tried to focus on the Cygnus project files, but his thoughts drifted back to Kale and that enigmatic figure. What secrets did Kale carry? And how deeply did they affect his own mission here? Suddenly, his communicator beeped, an encrypted message. It was from Kyle. "Meet me at the East Maintenance Bay. Midnight. Come alone." Jared's pulse quickened. Finally, a chance for answers. The East Maintenance Bay was a cavernous space, lined with tools and equipment bathed in shadows. Jared entered cautiously, senses alert. From the darkness, Kyle stepped forward. His face was pale, eyes shadowed by exhaustion and worry. "You came," Kyle said quietly. "I had to," Jared replied. "Where have you been, and who is she?" Kale hesitated, then sighed deeply. "Her name is Elara." Jared raised an eyebrow. "She is my kin, my bondmate." "Bondmate?" Kale nodded. "A bondmate is more than a partner, more than a friend. It is a lifelong connection, sacred and binding." "Why didn't you tell me?" Kyle's voice cracked slightly. "Because it was forbidden. Our culture demands secrecy, especially with outsiders." Jared frowned. "But you're working with me now. We're supposed to trust each other." Kyle looked down. "I wanted to trust you, but revealing Elara risks everything." Kyle took a step closer, voice low. "Elara is not just my bondmate. She is hunted." Jared blinked, stunned. "Hunted? By whom?" "By factions within my people," Kyle said bitterly. "There are those who oppose our union, who fear what it means." Jared's mind raced. Political intrigue, cultural conflict, and now a missing alien colleague tied to a secret bondmate. This was no longer just science or exploration. It was survival. Kyle's eyes darkened. When the anomaly appeared in Sector 7, it wasn't just a random disturbance. It was a signal, a warning. Elara sent it. Jared stared. "She's trying to warn you?" Kale nodded. "Of something coming, something worse than we imagined." Jared felt a chill. "What do you think it is?" Kale's gaze drifted to the distant stars. "I don't know, but it's coming." As Kale spoke, the station's alarm suddenly blared through the corridors. "Emergency! Unauthorized access detected in the secure vault." Jared and Kale exchanged a look before rushing toward the alarm. Inside the vault, they found a shattered containment unit and a strange crystalline artifact glowing faintly on the floor. "Where did this come from?" Jared asked. Kale's eyes widened. This is from our homeworld, a relic of great power. It should never have been here. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed, emitting a low hum. Jared felt a wave of energy wash over him, a sensation both terrifying and hypnotic. The artifact seemed to resonate with Kale, whose eyes reflected the pulsating light. "This is what they fear," Kale whispered. "This is why Ilara is hunted." Back in the safety of the observation deck, Kale explained. "The artifact's history. It is a key," he said. "A key to a sealed dimension, one that holds dangers beyond our comprehension." Jared shook his head. "Why bring it here?" "Because the factions want to unlock it, for power, control, maybe even destruction." Jared's mind reeled. The space station was no longer just a research hub. It was the front line of a cosmic conflict. As the days passed, the tension mounted. Jared and Kale worked tirelessly to secure the artifact, decoding its secrets and uncovering cryptic warnings etched in an alien language. Their bond grew stronger, forged in shared danger and urgency. Yet Kale's guarded nature remained a wall Jared struggled to break through. One night, as they studied the artifact's glowing runes, Kale finally opened up. "The bond between me and Ilara is more than emotional. It is tied to this artifact, to our survival." Jared looked up. "What do you mean?" Kale's voice was solemn. "When this key is used, it will unleash something ancient, something that has haunted my people for centuries." Jared felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Suddenly, a transmission interrupted their focus. Lena's voice crackled over the comm. "Jared, you need to see this. The security footage. There's been movement near the docking bay." Rushing to the surveillance room, Jared and Kale watched in disbelief. The mysterious woman, Ilara, appeared again on the screens, moving stealthily through the station. But she was not alone. Several shadowy figures followed her, armed and silent. Jared turned to Kale. "They're here." Kale nodded grimly. "They've come for her, for the artifact, for the future of my people." The station trembled as power flickered. Chaos loomed. The siege of secrets. The station's corridors were suddenly alive with urgency. Alarms shrieking, emergency lights flashing red, and footsteps pounding on steel. Jared's breath caught in his throat as he moved with Kale toward the docking bay, every second feeling like a heartbeat in a war zone. The glowing artifact, the key, rested secured in a containment unit behind reinforced glass, yet no lock felt enough in the face of what was coming. Jared's mind raced. Who were the shadowy figures chasing Ilara? What would happen if they took the key? But more than that, how was Kale going to protect the one he loved, when even he seemed pulled into the crossfire? They reached the docking bay as a small group of armed figures blocked the main entrance. The air felt thick with tension, the scent of ozone from flickering power conduits mixing with cold metal. Jared and Kale ducked behind a supply crate, eyes fixed on the confrontation ahead. Ilara stood her ground, slender but fierce, her glowing skin flickering under the emergency lights. The intruders were tall, cloaked in dark armor that shimmered faintly, not unlike Kale's own people, but with subtle differences. Their leader stepped forward, voice modulated and harsh. "We seek the key, surrender it, and your people will be spared." Ilara's voice cut sharply through the tension. "You threaten what you do not understand. We will not let the key fall into your hands." Kyle's jaw tightened. "These are the purists," he whispered. "They want to use the key to awaken an ancient power, one that could destroy worlds." Jared felt the weight of those words. They had stumbled into a war, not just between people, but between ideals and destinies. Suddenly, the purists advanced. Ilara moved like a dancer, swift and precise, her form shimmering as she activated a defensive field that pulsed with energy. Jared watched, heart pounding, as Kale stepped forward. Beside her, his own abilities awakening in response, glowing markings appearing along his arms. "Jared, stay back," Kale warned, but Jared shook his head. "No, I'm not leaving you." Kale glanced at him, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. The battle was swift and fierce. Energy blasts cracked through the air as defensive shields collided with advancing weapons. Jared found himself dodging behind crates and control panels, adrenaline sharpening every sense. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for something he barely understood but deeply believed in: hope. In a sudden moment of clarity amid the chaos, Jared spotted a control panel near the artifact's containment. If he could override the station's security protocols, maybe he could lock the key down completely, seal it in a way even the purists couldn't break. With Kale and Alara holding the attacker's back, Jared sprinted toward the panel. His fingers flew over the interface, bypassing security layers, sweat dripping from his brow. Then a warning flashed on the screen. "Containment override initiated. Warning. Artifact instability detected." Jared's heart stopped. Had he just triggered something dangerous? Back at the fight, Alara took a hit, staggering but refusing to fall. Kale's eyes flared with energy, pushing him beyond limits Jared had seen before. Together, they fought like two halves of the same soul, their bond radiating in every strike. And parry. Suddenly, a shockwave rippled through the station. Lights flickered wildly, the artifact's glow intensified, casting eerie shadows on every wall. Jared stumbled back, eyes wide. The key was reacting. "Jared!" Kyle shouted. "We have to get out now!" They raced through the corridors, alarms blaring louder, the station shaking as if on the verge of collapse. Behind them, the purists' forces regrouped, relentless. In the chaos, Jared's mind reeled with questions and fears. What was this key really capable of? Could they keep it safe without unleashing destruction? And more pressingly, would Kyle and Alara survive the night? As they reached a secure chamber deep within the station, Jared heard a soft, desperate voice over the comms. "Jared, please, you have to listen. There's more you don't know." It was Lena. Her voice trembled with urgency. Jared exchanged a look with Kale. "Put her through." Lena's face appeared on the screen, pale and anxious. "The purists aren't just after the artifact. They want to control the legacy of our species, the secrets buried in our DNA." Jared blinked, confused. "Why would they care about us?" "Because you're human, Jared, and the key, it's linked to you." Jared felt as if the floor dropped beneath him. "What do you mean?" Lena's eyes flickered. "There's a hidden truth in your bloodline. A connection to this artifact. You're more important to this conflict than you realize." Kyle stepped forward, voice low but steady. "We must protect Jared, not just for his sake, but for the future of both our worlds." Suddenly, the station's power dipped, emergency protocols activated. The screens flickered and died, silence fell, and then a deafening explosion rocked the station. The shattered trust Jared's eyes blinked open slowly. The cold metal floor bit into his skin, and his head throbbed with the remnants of the explosion. The station's emergency lights flickered weakly overhead, casting long shadows in the ruined chamber. Dust floated in the stagnant air, thick and heavy. Kale's grip on his arm was firm, steady. "Stay with me," Kyle urged quietly, his voice taut with worry. Jared tried to move, but pain radiated through his ribs. He swallowed hard, pushing down the growing panic. "What happened?" Kyle shook his head. "We were caught in the blast. It was no accident. Someone detonated explosives near the containment unit." Jared's gaze flicked toward the figure emerging from the shadows, Alara. But she was different now. Her glowing skin pulsed with a harsh, erratic light, and her eyes held a wild, unrecognizable gleam. Why are you like that?" Jared whispered. Ilara stepped closer, voice colder than before. Because the truth cannot be hidden forever, Kyle tensed, standing between Jared and Ilara. What truth? Ilara's gaze swept the room, almost like she was searching for something beyond the walls. Then her eyes locked on Jared. You don't understand the power you carry, she said. The key is more than an artifact. It's a beacon, and it's calling to me. Jared's heart slammed against his ribs. Calling to you. What does that mean? Ilara's expression softened, but only briefly. It means that everything we thought we knew about our mission, about the purists, even about each other, is a lie. Kale's voice was low but fierce. Don't listen to her, Jared. She's been corrupted by the key's influence. Ilara shook her head. No, Kale. I've been freed. Jared struggled to understand. Just hours ago, Ilara had been their ally. Now she was something else, something dangerous. Suddenly, the station trembled again, more violently this time. The air filled with the distant rumble of approaching ships. Kyle's eyes narrowed. The purists, they're coming back, and they won't stop until they have the key. Jared's mind raced. They were trapped on a damaged station, surrounded by enemies, and now their closest ally was unpredictable. Jared, Kyle said, voice urgent, we need to move, now. Jared nodded, pushing himself up despite the pain. Together, they hurried. Through the maze of corridors, the station groaning under assault. The once familiar halls now felt alien, shadows hiding dangers around every corner. As they moved, Kyle explained, the key isn't just a weapon. It's a gateway to knowledge, to power beyond imagining. Our ancestors created it to protect our civilizations from destruction. But the purists want to use it to rewrite the universe itself. Jared's head spun. How does that involve me? Kale's eyes darkened. Because the key's activation requires a human touch. Your bloodline carries the genetic code to unlock it. You're the missing link. Jared's thoughts drifted to Lena's warning, the hidden truth in his DNA. It was overwhelming, but also terrifying. He was no longer just an observer in this cosmic battle. He was the center of it. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from Jared's wristcom device. He looked down to see Lena's face flicker on the screen, pale but resolute. Jared, listen carefully. Lena's voice was urgent. There's something you need to know about the key, and about Ilara. Jared's pulse quickened. What is it? Lena swallowed hard. The key's power is tied to emotional resonance, trust, loyalty, love. It responds not just to DNA, but to feelings. Jared's mind flashed back to the explosion, to Ilara's sudden change. Could the key be influencing her? Or is she choosing this? Lena's voice was trembling. I don't know, but I fear she's been manipulated by the key's energy. Her mind is fractured between who she was and what it's making her become. Jared's heart clenched. Is there a way to save her? Lena's eyes flickered with hope and fear. There might be, but it requires a choice, a sacrifice. Before Jared could ask more, the connection was cut. Kyle's grip tightened. We have no time. The purists are boarding the station. The next minutes blurred into chaos. Blaster fire echoed through the halls. Kale and Jared fought side by side, pushing back wave after wave of attackers, but the purists were relentless. At one point, Jared found himself face to face with a purist commander, cold, merciless and unyielding, their weapons locked in a deadly dance of sparks and fury. Jared's mind screamed, but his body moved on instinct, fueled by something deeper than survival. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the battle. Jared turned to see Ilara, cornered and vulnerable, fighting a losing battle against a group of purists. Without hesitation, Jared rushed to her side, blocking a blow meant for her. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted. The wildness in her gaze softened, just for a flicker. Jared, she whispered, Kyle joined them, and the three formed a fragile circle of defense. But the purists regrouped, pushing harder. Kyle's voice was grim. "We need to get to the central chamber. That's where the key's energy is strongest, and where we might have a chance to control it." As they moved through the smoke-filled corridors, Jared's mind raced with questions and fears. What would happen if they reached the chamber? Could they stop the purists? Could they save Elara? Reaching the chamber, they were met with an eerie sight. The artifact, the key, was suspended in the air, pulsing with blinding light. But the chamber was cracked and scorched, the energy unstable. Jared stepped forward, feeling the key's hum resonating deep in his bones. He reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, a surge of power exploded through him. Visions flooded his mind, ancient star systems, forgotten civilizations, and a cosmic balance. On the edge, but then pain. Elara collapsed, her body racked with tremors. Kyle caught her, eyes wide with alarm. Suddenly, the chamber door slammed shut. The purists trapped them inside. The choice that changed everything. The chamber was bathed in searing light, the key's energy radiating like a star trapped in a cage. Jared's body trembled, the alien power coursing through his veins, both terrifying and exhilarating. Elara lay in Kale's arms, her breath shallow but steady. Her wild eyes now showed a fragile hope. Jared's heart pounded, not just with the weight of power, but with the burden of choice. Jared, Elara's voice was barely a whisper, yet it echoed in his mind. The key responds not only to strength, but to what you hold inside. Your humanity is your greatest weapon, your love, your fears, your doubts. You must decide what kind of future you want. Kyle tightened his grip on her, his voice rough but steady. The purists want to use the key to remake the universe in their image. Cold, controlled, ruthless. But we can use it to protect, to heal, to build. Jared swallowed hard, feeling the immense pressure crushing his chest. This was no longer just about survival. This was about defining the destiny of countless worlds, including his own. A surge of memories flooded Jared's mind, the laughter of Lena, her trust in him when the world seemed dark and uncertain. The sharp betrayal he felt when Elara changed, and yet the flicker of the woman he knew buried deep beneath. The endless corridors of the station where every corner held a secret, a challenge, a battle for truth, the purists' merciless resolve to control everything, to crush freedom under their boot. His fingers hovered over the key's pulsating core. Elara's gaze met his again. "Don't be afraid to feel." Jared closed his eyes and reached deep into himself. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The light dimmed. The shaking ceased. The air grew still as the chamber waited. Jared opened his eyes to see the purists frozen in place outside the transparent chamber walls, their weapons lowered. The key's glow had softened to a gentle hum, warm and inviting. Jared took a breath and spoke, not with words, but with intention. The key responded to his emotions, weaving his feelings into the fabric of its power. He sent waves of trust, forgiveness, and hope into the energy field. Images of unity, of shared struggle and triumph flickered like a beacon into the vastness of space. Kale's eyes widened. "You're doing it." Elara's breath grew steadier. She squeezed Kale's hand, her eyes shining with tears. The key's power transformed from destructive to creative. It spread beyond the chamber, reaching the purists and the station alike. The frozen enemy's expressions softened, their rage and hatred melting away. A quiet understanding passed through the room. The fight was over. Jared stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We are not enemies. We are survivors. Together, we can build something better, not by erasing who we are, but by embracing what makes us different." The purist leader blinked, his cold eyes now filled with confusion, then something like respect. Kale exhaled slowly. "It's the humanity, the empathy, that changed everything. Elara smiled weakly. The key was never meant to control. It was meant to connect. Jared nodded, feeling the truth settle within him like a new dawn. Weeks later, the station was transformed. The damaged walls glowed softly with the key's energy, now a symbol of peace and cooperation. Humans and aliens worked side by side, exploring new possibilities together. Jared and Elara stood on the observation deck, watching the stars swirl in vibrant patterns. "You saved us all," Kyle said, joining them, "not just with strength, but with heart." Jared looked at Elara and smiled. Maybe it wasn't about saving her, but about saving ourselves by learning to trust. In the quiet of space, a new journey had begun. Not one of conquest or fear, but of discovery, connection, and hope. The lesson: power without compassion leads only to destruction. True strength lies in embracing our humanity, our flaws, our fears, and above all, our capacity for love and forgiveness. When we open ourselves to others, even those we once saw as enemies, we unlock a power far greater than any weapon. The future is not written by fear or hatred, but by the choices we make to build bridges instead of walls. The stars above shone a little brighter that day, a beacon for all who dared to believe in a better tomorrow. The end